Hello, and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. In this video, we're going to keep looking at the Planeshift theme decks, and we're going to look at Domain, which is a 5-color deck. And yes, that apparently was the best art to put on the front of the box, a weird boggle-eyed dryad. So let's dive into this 5-color, kind of a mess, honestly. So we have Decklist here, so we have 15 creatures, 11 sorceries, 3 enchantments, 9 instants, 22 land, mana curve off to the side there. So, as a 5-color deck, it's predominantly kind of in green, because that's where you get all your kind of mana fixing from. But I don't know whether or not the selection of green cards in this really helps. When I looked at Spectrum from Invasion, I said that that was kind of trying to do the it was a bad execution of a good idea, which was trying to do like a 5-color deck. And I said, like, oh, Domain from Planeshift I think does it a little better. I think I was working off different information because having looked at this deck, I don't think it's doing a better job. So we have the rares. Quirion Dryad is 2 mana for a 1/1. Whenever you play a white, blue, black, or red spell, it gets a +1/+1 counter. This it used to be a pretty good card back in the day. I think it was like part of some deck called like Miracle Grow or something like that, where you just cast lots of spells of different colors to pump it up to really big size, and then you just swing with it. Doesn't have any kind of evasion, which is not wonderful, but yeah, and also its art is not great. I mean that has nothing to do with the the actual card itself, but yeah, that art is yeah, it's not wonderful in my opinion. This has been downshifted, I think, to uncommon recently, which is fine. I think it's a fine effect to have an uncommon. But yeah, rare, it just feels, I don't know. At the time, I guess it would have been fine. The other rare is Magna Goth Tree Folk, which is 5 mana for a 2/6. For every basic land type amongst lands you control, it has Landwalker that type. So you think, oh, the happy dream is to have one land of each type, and then it has Landwalker every type, then it's unblockable. But it's still only a 2/6, and a 2/6 unblockable is not very impressive at all, obviously. There are ways of buffing up in the deck, but I just kind of wish it just had higher base stats anyway. But I mean, I guess it's okay in here. And 2 Quirion Explorers. This is basically Felwar Stone on a body. Taps to give you mana of a color that a land an opponent controls could produce, which really helps when you're playing 5-color. Quirion Trailblazer has shown up in a few of these theme decks already. It just does rampant growth when it comes in, but 4 mana makes it's obviously a little bit pricey. Then a bunch of random like domain creatures. So Wayfaring Giant is going to show up in every one of these like 5-color invasion block decks. It's not good. That's all I can say of it. Kavu Scout I think is a little better. It's 3 mana for a 0/2, and it gets +1/+0 for every basic land type amongst lands you control. So at best it can be a 5/2, but at least it's only 3 mana and not 6 like Wayfaring Giant is. 2 Stratodons, which is 10 mana for a 5/5, but it costs 1 less to play for every basic land type amongst lands you control. But at best, okay, it's 5 mana for a 5/5 trample. It's not that exciting still. If you're getting it down to 5 mana, then it might as well just be 1 white, 1 red, 1 black, 1 mana of every color just for a 5/5 trample, which is not very exciting. Cavalry Recluse, I had no idea why this is in it. It's just 1 random Cavalry Recluse. He just taps to make a land into a forest until end of turn. Okay. And then again, weirdly, like 3 Samite Pilgrims who have a damage prevention ability based on domain, but it only prevents damage to creatures rather than players, which is a shame, makes it less powerful. But yeah, 3 of those, which seems like a weird choice. And then we're into a bunch of domain spells, which I guess is the main core of the deck. So we have 2 allied strategies where you draw a card equal to your domain count. So ideally you want that to be at least 3, I'd say, to get worth out of it. At 5 that's actually pretty good, like 5 cards for 5 mana. Although it's sorcery speed, but can't have it all. Yes, that's okay. Exotic disease. Target player loses X life and you gain X life, where X is your domain count. Um, this one's a little bad, I think. 5 mana for even. I mean, like even a 5 point like swing of life is quite expensive, I think, for 5 mana, and you have to have a land of each type out. Like it's just a lot of hoops to jump through for that. 3 Tribal Flames. This is okay. Does X damage to target creature or player, where X is your domain count. So it's quite cheap, which means it scales really nicely. And then Wandering Stream. This definitely could have been cheaper. This could have been, I think, 1 mana less. You get 2 life for each basic land type mountain lands you control. Only one of those. Yeah, again, at best you're getting 10 life off it for 3 mana, which is fine, but I mean that's all it's doing. It's just gaining you life. It's not, just gaining life doesn't win you the game. Some more domain spells. Ordered Migration gives you a bird token for equal to your domain count. So again, you probably want to be getting at least 4 out of this, I think, to make it worthwhile. Exotic Curse is an aura. Enchanted creature gets -1/-1 for every basic land type amongst lands you control. That's okay as a kill spell, I think. Again, you kind of want this to be giving at least -3/-3, I think, to make it worthwhile. But at least you can kill smaller creatures with it. You don't have to wait to get your full domain count to essentially play it and get full effect out of it. Strength of Unity. Enchanted creature gets +X/+X, where X is your domain count, basically. Kind of expensive. I don't know why it's 4 mana. This, I think, again, that could easily be maybe 2 or 3 mana. But that's kind of what you want to put on the Magnagoth Tree Folk, I suppose, or Quirion Dryad, because those are basically your win condition, along with Stratodon, because all your other creatures are kind of small. And then a single Guy's Might. Target creature gets +1/+1 to the turn for every basic land type like lands you control. That's fine as a pump spell. Kind of wish there'd been 1 or 2 more of those in the deck, honestly. And then a single Worldly Council. Look at the top X cards of your deck, where X is the number of basic land types amongst lands you control. Put one of those cards in your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library. It's fine for 2, I guess. Being able to kind of look at, again, this is all assuming everything goes wonderfully. Looking at the top 5 and picking one is pretty good for 2 mana, but again, it's like you've got to jump through the hoops of having every land type to really get the benefit from it. So then we're off the domain spells. We have a Breath of Darius. That's been in the deck before. I think it's pretty good. I think it's one of the best kind of kicker spells in Invasion block. It does 1 damage to every creature without flying in each player, and if you kick it for quite a reasonable kicker cost, it does 4 damage, which is like a really big upgrade, and that would quite reliably kind of sweep the board. And then we have some land fixing, so Primal Growth, 2 colors in green, kicker, sacrifice creature, search your library for a basic land card, put it into play, not tapped, which is actually worth considering. Then shuffle your library, and if you kick it, you search for 2 basic land cards instead. So I think paying 3 and sacrificing a creature is worth. I think getting 2 basic lands into play untapped. I think that's actually pretty good. Yeah. I think Harrow is better, honestly. 2 and a green, instant, sacrifice a land, search your library for 2 basic land cards, put them into play, again untapped, then shuffle. Yeah. I think Harrow edges out slightly more over Primal Growth. And then we have Confound. This is, again, almost in pretty much every deck that has blue in these Invasion block theme decks. Counter target spell that targets 1 or more creatures, draw a card. For 2 mana, I think that's actually a pretty good counter spell. So yeah, always happy to see those ones. I think it's actually a pretty good counter. And then we have Trevar's Charm. So as part of the cycle of these 3 color dragon charms, Trevar's Charm destroys an enchantment or exiles an attacking creature, or you draw and discard a card. So those effects are kind of okay. I think obviously the exile and attacking creature is probably the strongest one. But the other 2 would be useful. I think I think drawing card and then discarding like that last effect is like really overcost. I think that could have been draw 2 and then discard 1, personally, but yeah. It's okay. That's the Travar's Charm is not my favorite one. Rith's Charm I think is slightly better. You can destroy a non-basic land, or you get 3 saprolings, or prevent all damage a source of your choice would deal this turn. I think that's a little better than Travar's Charm. Just because you can add to the board with the saprolings. But yeah, I mean they're both kind of okay. And then a single terminal moraine, which is kind of like Terramorphic Expanse's grandfather. It can tap to give you colors, which is okay. Or you pay 2 tap, sacrifice it, search library for a basic land, put into play tapped, then shuffle your library. Again, it would have been nice to have an extra copy of these, especially in a deck where you're trying to get all your all the lands of a certain type out. So what could have been? So I think there's a few changes that could have been made to this deck. I don't think the creature selection is that great, honestly. And I mean, like, I get the theme is meant to be, all these domain spells, but like, generally, they're not that good. I don't think. I always think their effects are either a little weak or they're kind of overcosted. It feels like they're kind of costed, as assuming that you're gonna get at least kind of 3 off it, I guess. But Dream Thrush would have been okay. This turns a land into a different land type, so that would have helped here. Star Compass just gives you mana. Daragaz's Charm, this is kind of representative of the other 3 Dragon Charms. Would have been cool, I think, to have 1 charm of each. 1 copy of each charm in this deck, just as fun multicolored cards. Daragaz's, I think, I don't know if it's the best, it's my favorite one. Because it can do Raise Dead, or it does Lightning Bolt, or it does Giant Growth. And I think those effects will fine to have on a charm. Reaspice Power Arm is not in here. So it's an artifact that taps to give a creature +1/+1 equal. It gives you +X equal to your domain count. So really surprised that's not in here actually, because that's at least a repeatable buff. And then Res, I think it would have been really fun to have Draco in this. So Draco is a huge 16 mana, 9/9 flyer, but he is 2 less for every basic land type amongst lands you control. And the beginning of your upkeep, you have to sacrifice him unless you pay 10, and that cost is reduced by 2 for every basic land type amongst lands you control. Just think it would have been really fun to have him in as the rare. Just this really big, that would have been more fun than Magnagoth Treefolk, in my opinion. The other alternative rare I thought would have been pretty cool is Dominaria's Judgment. So this is 2 cards in a white for an instant. Until end turn, creature you control get protection from white if you control planes, from blue if you're an island, and so on for all the basic lands. I think that would have been fun, if you just having all your land types out and then casting this and haha, my whole board has protection from every color, and that would have been a good kind of way to swing and kind of end the game. I don't know, but yeah, I think Quirion Dryad is fine in this. It's just the Magnagoth Treefolk I think is a little underwhelming. So in summary, yeah, I'm not so keen on this one. I think Domain is I think a weird. It's not a weird mechanic. It's just it's not my preferred mechanic, because I think there's always so many hoops to jump through to be able to get kind of a small benefit. Normally with 5-color decks, the benefit is just playing good multicolored spells. Rather than playing kind of monocolor spells that just give you a benefit from having different land types, I guess. But it's a different way of doing 5-color decks, I suppose. So yeah, overall okay, I suppose. But yeah, what do you think? Did you have this deck? Did you play with it? What changes did you make to it? I'd really like to know. And also I'd really like to know what you think of that art, because that's haunting my dreams tonight, I think. But yeah, stick a comment below, and I'll be back next time to look at the last Planeshift themed deck. But until then, thank you for watching and listening, and have a good day.